This is Byron and Nicole White, and you are tuned into episode 219 of The Real Word.
Word is up.
The word is up. The link is down. Go hit the link for Tomo, a mortgage without losing your marbles, so that your clients will love you. The link's down below. More on them a little bit later. But first, the bombshell lawsuit. It's been looming over our industry like a gray cloud since 2019. Nicole, you and I have covered this on a whole bunch of Real Words over the last couple of years. And just yesterday, the federal commission suit is now a class action. NAR Realogy vowed to appeal. That is the headline straight from Inman. They do a really good write-up here on everything you need to know up to this minute. There's still obviously a whole bunch more in this lawsuit to come. But days after oral arguments, which Gary Keller was like front and center of the oral arguments over the last week. But after those arguments, a judge Friday granted class certification in one of two federal commission suits that could rock our industry and impact how agents are compensated nationwide. The big part of this lawsuit, as discussed before, is that there are sellers that are saying we are being price fixed on our commission based on having to include this buyer agent commission. Obviously, we real estate professionals understand clearly that commissions are 100% negotiable. But there are now a class action group of sellers that are stating the opposite. They were unaware, they were forced into a corner, what have you. And that is building in these buyer commissions and inflating prices of real estate, inflating the commission that they have to pay out, and that basically buyer agents should be collecting their commission directly from buyers. That's one of a few different things that are in this lawsuit. Now, this lawsuit is not nationwide. So let's get straight on that. All right. This is like Missouri and Illinois are the two big areas. Back in 2019, home seller plaintiffs Joshua Sitzer and Amy Winger filed a lawsuit against NAR, Realogy, Remax, Keller Williams, Home Services of America, and its subsidiaries, BHH affiliates and HSF affiliates, alleging the sharing of commissions between listing and buyer brokers violates the Sherman Antitrust Act by inflating seller costs. Other plaintiffs, including Scott and Rhonda Burnett, later joined the case. This now being class action allows a whole bunch of sellers to jump in. And Nicole, they can collect over $1 billion in buyer agent damages or commissions that were previously paid out. If this, obviously, NAR, Realogy have already come out, they're going to fight it. Keller Williams quoted in here as a no quote. They're not saying anything, but they will continue to vigorously defend themselves in court against all of this. If this class action is successful, what do you think happens to buyer agents in the future? Like, what is your updated mindset on what happens to the buyer agents in this country if this class action lawsuit has success?
They say bye-bye. I mean, no buyer is going to, because again, I feel like we've been not training them, but agents you see the videos, right? Like I cost $0. You don't have to pay me any money to help
Well,
you buy a house.
agents,
And
alert mode, stop doing that today. Stop saying your services are
right.
free.
Well, they should never have been really saying that to begin with, but
You're literally giving them what they want on this
right.
class action lawsuit. So every
Yes.
agent, every broker, every team leader, stop now. Stop saying
Stop.
your services are free. This class action lawsuit is welcoming those Instagram posts. Eliminate those from your verbiage immediately.
Immediately. Because again, I mean, because again, you've been teaching educating, telling the consumer that you're free. And now the only way that you're actually going to get paid is if you're now asking that buyer to pay for you.
And we
Good
have to,
luck.
Nicole, we have to be very clear on how this commission works. Okay.
Right.
So, if the seller is paying the X amount of commission and that buyer or that listing agent is then giving the buyer
Right.
broker a piece of this commission, everybody needs to be disclosed on that. The
Yes.
disclosure online is certainly going to help. There will be, I'll tell you one thing for sure. whether NAR, Realogy, and others are successful in fighting this, or if
Mhm.
this spreads like a, to the whole entire country
Yeah.
and everybody gets involved. Either way, there's going to be, and we've already seen changes, like I'm talking about with the website disclosures. There's going to be changes on this. The dramatic change would be that sellers are not, and listing brokers rather, are
Mhm.
not allowed to pay these buyer
Right.
brokers out. My initial gut reaction to that is it hurts home ownership if we do that, because less buyers will be able to afford representation, be
Of
able to afford
course.
an advisor.
Right. 100%. Well, and then it really is now causing the listing agent to do twice as much work. So, because now they're not even really technically representing the buyer, but they're having to now do the work for the buyer.
Well,
Because again, your job is to help your seller. And if the only way to help your seller is to draft a contract from a buyer that needs help because they don't have representation, you're now going to have to start doing that as a listing agent.
with no fiduciary responsibility, so you're
Right.
taking no liability if a mistake is made, or if they don't understand.
Right. Which
They're
is so
basically,
interesting
they'd be
because
signing an unrepresented form.
they'd have to. And it's interesting because, again, years and years ago, before you and I were both in the business, I mean, there was no buyer broker representation. And the big shakeup was that the buyers needed representation for it to be fair. But again, now if there's
Well,
no
Nicole,
compensation, it's just
you
it's like
bring
you're
up a great point. I just had Spencer Raskoff on my podcast this past week, the Byron
ByronLazine
Lazine
Yeah.
podcast, to end
Yep.
out the BAM launch week. All right.
Yep. Mhm.
And Spencer on that podcast said,
Do you want to give them
apps,
your cell phone number too? Real quick?
he does have my cell phone number. He probably
Okay.
deleted it, I'm sure, but he does have it.
Mhm.
I still have his, by the way.
Mhm.
Um, anyways, really appreciated him coming on. But what he said in there, and we were talking about, you know, the history of Zillow and agents and all this kind of stuff. What he said was agents are absolutely essential. The president of Zillow, which Spencer's, he's owns shares, he's not affiliated anymore, a former CEO, but the current president just came out and said agents are absolutely essential. And what Spencer said on the podcast was, listen, if a new piece of technology comes out in the healthcare industry, and you can look it up on Google and you can figure out what it means, you still want a professional, a doctor, to walk you through those findings. It may make the doctor's job easier. It
Right.
allows them to, what he said, give their clients more time, more empathy, more care. Same thing here with an agent. And this is the analogy he made. You want a buyer representing your interest through this transaction.
You mean a buyer's
So
agent?
a
Yeah.
buyer's agent. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, buyer's agent. Somebody, a company, Spencer's old company, Zillow, who should really be paying attention to this. Zillow. Zillow should be looking at this very closely, because say this goes the way the people filing the class action suit want it to, and sellers have to pay out the buyer agent, and now buyer
You
agents really don't exist.
you mean the buyers have to pay the buyer's
The
agents?
buyers, I'm sorry, the buyers have to
Yeah.
pay the buyer agents.
Yep.
And so basically buyer agents don't exist like they do today.
Right.
Well, Zillow has struggled on generating seller
Seller
leads.
leads.
They
Yeah.
generate buyer leads and collect the majority of that income from buyer agents. This would
Right.
wipe out what Zillow is leaning into heavily right now, their
Heavily
business model.
is
Now,
that.
there's a long way to go here, right? And
Yeah.
and so there's a lot to play out. Uh, Mantil Williams, the spokesperson for NAR, says, we are disappointed in the decision and plan to appeal. So they're going to go to a higher court on this. But right now, granted class action lawsuit, this is the biggest threat to the industry. Spencer, going back to him at Inman Connect last week, he said that CoStar, Zillow's biggest competitor that is looming, in the weeds, not doing
Yep.
anything, not making much noise outside of buying HomeSnap and a couple other small moves, is rooting for chaos like this because it will create an opportunity for a new type of disruption in residential real estate. So you've got, if you're Zillow, to me, and Zillow's not really in this article, they don't reference Zillow really at all. I don't think
At
it even
all.
comes up. But Zillow to me is a player that needs to step in alongside of NAR and fight this thing tooth and nail if they want their current business model to be relevant in the future. I don't know, Nicole. Class action is a scary word,
I don't
and
know.
it will create some rifts in the industry. A company that is
For
making
sure.
huge changes in the industry, Nicole, is Tomo. You can find the link below, or you can go to hellotomo.com.
Hello.
It's a mortgage without losing your marbles. So if you are a buyer agent today, yes, you do still exist. And yes, you want to do the best job you possibly can for your buyer. So get them a mortgage that isn't going to give them stress. Great rates, no lender fees, and close on time. Nicole, how often does Tomo close on time?
Tomo closes 98% of their loans on time, where the market average is usually only 40. So
Yes. So close those
Tomo is
loans
where it's at.
58% on time more by using Tomo. Link is below. Get your clients a quote with Tomo. Okay, Zillow. Bunch of Zillow execs, by the way, started Tomo. So pretty smart people. I think they'll be pretty successful. And
Pretty
Zillow,
smart people.
racket number 2, they have done a slight flippy floppy. Not a
I
real flippy
mean, this
floppy.
is not I mean, in my mind, this is a
they have
racket. They're just trying to get themselves in the headline.
they have adjusted their forecast for this year's housing prices. So we'll link this below. Zillow home value and sales forecast April 2022. Zillow expects annual home value growth to begin a gradual cool down late this spring. Zillow forecasts 14.9% growth over the next 12 months. They're still saying about 6.09 million existing home sales are expected in 2022. Well, that's actually a 0.5% decrease from 2021, but in line with their latest forecast. So their forecast was calling for a 16.5% growth in home sale growth in the values, now at 14.9%. They're also expecting over the next 3 months that it's going to grow 5.5% instead of the 5.9% that they previously predicted. So, do you feel a cool down of sorts coming when it relates to home values in real estate, Nicole?
I'm not feeling a cool down. I mean, and this is again, they're saying a cool down, but this isn't you don't even need to put on a jacket for this cool down that they're talking
Not even
about.
a windbreaker?
I mean 1%. I mean, what are you really talking about here? Again, there's still fabulous numbers. I mean, Byron, we always talk about sort of like a healthy market each year is what, maybe like 5%. So again, to be at almost like still at 15%, especially again, I mean, obviously we're talking more about our market here in Connecticut. I mean, that's huge.
And
It's still, even if we're going down from the 1% that they were projecting, I mean, this is still going to be a great market. It continues to be a great seller's market. And I don't need a jacket. I don't feel like I need a jacket.
you can see in the chart that Bobby will post here, if you're watching on YouTube, that these, to Nicole's point, these adjustments are very slight, but they're obviously seeing some data. One of the data points that they are seeing is a lot less traffic and inventory on their site. So inventory levels remain near record lows,
Hmm.
but they do have the potential to recover faster than anticipated, which could lower future price and sales volume projections. Now, I think if that is true, if inventory does come on the market, which everybody, I haven't heard one broker, I haven't heard one team leader say, yeah, Byron, in our market, we're all of a sudden seeing a lot of inventory. Still haven't heard that today, having conversations every single week. Nobody's saying that. If that were to happen with these interest rates continuing to accelerate, then sure, I could see prices drop. This
Yeah.
slight cool down, I mean, this is kind of like, this is picking hairs here. I don't
Yeah.
see this as huge news.
No.
They're
Well, it actually reminds me a little bit of the article we talked about maybe five weeks ago when they said that, under contracts were down. But again, like the underlying reason for that was because of inventory. The under contracts was down because there weren't any more homes to put under contract. So
yeah.
I feel like this is sort of on that same line there.
So Zillow sees a cool down coming. To Nicole's point, it's not even worthy of a windbreaker jacket. They are forecasting
No jacket.
14.9% growth over the next 12 months, where they were previously projecting 16.5% growth on home sale prices. What do you think? Do you think that Zillow will be right? Is it going to cool down slightly from previous projections, which is much higher than like Fannie, Freddie Mac, and others' projections? So
I feel like what they were projecting and where they're at it's not. I mean, watch us land right in the middle. I mean,
yeah,
there's still
it's if
decent
if you're a
track.
seller, you're still in
You're
control.
right.
So
You're
all the
still
listing
in
agents,
control
go get some
for
more
sure,
listings. All right,
right?
marketeer of the week, Ryan Serhant,
One of our
maybe his
faves.
fourth trophy. We've given
Oh, I
him
was gonna say 3, but maybe
three
it
or
is
four
4.
at
Yeah.
least. Ryan spoke at Inman Connect New York last week, as did Matt Leonetti. Matt Leonetti opened up day one. Bam, friend and contributor. The same day that Ryan spoke, Matt was the opening keynote. So shout out to Matt. We should have given him the marketeer of the week, Nicole. What
Maybe.
are we thinking?
He was like the opening act.
He was.
I like it.
He is
Do you
amazing.
ever when you go to concerts, do you go for the opening act
Concerts
or
or
yeah, like or
conferences?
no, like a concert. Do you go for the opening band or do you usually wait till the opening band is over to see like the main headline?
I mean, I go to a concert once. Obviously, the last 2 years it was kind of hard to go to concerts, but maybe once every, even before that, once every 2 years.
I don't
So,
need any explanations. I'm just curious. Do you go to the opening act or do you wait till the main act
main.
goes?
I like the main.
The main act, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So, but
Well,
when I go to a boxing match, I go to the opening cards. So there you go.
well,
Big
yeah, I
difference
mean,
there.
that isn't that part of the fun?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not like setting up shop at midnight, are you?
No.
Well, actually, I do. I set up
Yeah.
shop at
We've
midnight.
seen that. That's an inside joke, Nicole, on boxing matches. Anyways, Ryan Serhant to agents, marketeer of the week. Find the and in your
Mhm.
personal brand. Find the
Mhm.
and in your brand. He maybe would like to coin that. That's catchy. Find authenticity, lean into your passions, and think about your future self, says $1 million listing New York star Ryan Serhant. I feel like he's even past the $1 million
$1 million
listing brand.
listing,
Yeah,
yeah,
with
you're over.
Serhant
Yeah.
Brokerage, Serhant
Yeah, you're done.
Studios. He is doing it. He's expanding Serhant, by the way.
Yeah.
And so, Nicole, Ryan says every moment is an opportunity for a photo,
Yep.
was his advice to the audience at Inman. I find that when I do post some things outside, I post a lot of work. When I post things about
You post a lot of
golf,
work.
or I mean, what else do I post about golf or something like that? I do get,
Yep.
you know, extra interest, extra DMs. So it
Extra.
works to juice the Instagram algorithm where people will reach out
Yes.
and make a comment on what you're doing, especially if they have an aligned interest.
Yeah, no, I love this article because it's like it is so true. I agree with you. I actually I rather mention or talk about your big calves while you're playing golf
So
instead of your
listen to this.
your 30-second reel on I don't know with your headphones on. I do.
So
I like it better too.
so Dan O'Neill posts a video of me hitting a tee shot.
I couldn't have been the only one.
No, no, listen to this. He
Yeah.
posts a video of me hitting a tee shot at the Tiburon Golf Course down here in Naples, Florida. Great golf course. We were playing the Gold Course, and we're on hole 9. I'm teeing off, and he's got like the behind shot,
Yeah, I
and
mean, I'm actually surprised it didn't explode.
and
Like it
so
was yeah.
I'm not like fluffing myself here. I have naturally big calves. It's just
Naturally?
they're just naturally big. I'm not like working out my calves at all. I
Okay.
played sports in baseball. I caught my entire, so I think that has something to do with it because
Bending,
I was
yeah.
always on my calves. You're sitting
On
on
your
your calves
knees?
when you play
Yeah.
catcher.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so from like literally farm system, little league, all the way
Mhm.
through high school, that was the only position I
Yeah.
played. And so I was always sitting on my calves. Anyways,
Anyway,
Yeah, the way he caught it, the way the sun was glistening, it did look like the calf was quite enlarged there. And he
huge.
got 35 DMs. He got 35 DMs. So
I'm
I didn't
sure.
even get the benefit of this Instagram activity. He gets 35 DMs about my calf
Mhm.
muscle. And
Yep.
so really stupid, corny example of why this kind of stuff works. It
No,
creates a
but yeah,
conversation.
for sure. I mean, I definitely personally get a lot more comments on, if I post something that's related to like a wall color or wallpaper or even my family, in all honesty. People love to see your family. They love to see that you're real. They love to like this article is saying, however they can relate to you. Is really how the consumer wants to consume you. So I loved it. I think it's great. I mean, it's still it's obvious stuff, but I do appreciate him sort of bringing everyone back down to the basics, because it's kind of boring just to see all the time just listed, just sold, under contract, blah blah. I mean,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
are you? Who are you as a person? And I will say I think it's almost easier too as an agent, because if people are calling you because they know who you are, you know that they already like you. Chances are you're going to have to do a lot less selling to them than you would if you didn't sort of give them a little inside scoop of who
Yeah.
you were.
You have to be authentic to you. Sirhan says it starts with your core identity. And, I won't, you post a lot of your kids. I don't. It's
You
just,
don't.
it feels
Who
a little
you
weird to
are.
me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, but
Um,
that's what he's saying. He's saying being authentic to
yeah,
you. So don't
exactly.
post your kid. Like, don't. If that doesn't feel comfortable to you, don't. Yeah.
And so I choose not to. Now I do want to start giving some, maybe my other interests. I love cigars, but cigars could also maybe turn some people off. But, I get a lot of comments if I do post like a cigar, which I've done randomly every once in a while. We're doing a poker event up in Connecticut with the team, with the number one team. And I'll probably do some posting around that because I love poker. I love cards. That's
I
another
was
thing I
actually
like.
trying to get a cigar roller at that event.
Yeah, but there's so much money. I'll bring cigars.
All right.
We'll get Bongo Ron up there to come. Bongo Ron, he owns a little shop. Shout out to Bongo Ron in Connecticut. Owns a little cigar shop in Old
Huh.
Saybrook along the shoreline. He'll come. He's done it at the golf club before. Anyways, we're like ranting
Bongo.
and
I
raving
feel
here.
like, yeah, we are. But
Let
I guess the
what a
end. We
brand
need an
that is.
and.
Talk about being authentic to yourself. Bongo Ron is an authentic character. If anybody has ever met him in Connecticut, shout out to him, or on the islands. He's a big island hopper. Anyways, be authentic to you. Love to hear your thoughts. Love to hear your thoughts on this class action lawsuit. What do you think is going to happen? Will this be a dramatic impact? Will NAR and others, kind of squash this? Will Zillow get involved? Love
Right.
all of your comments below. Appreciate you guys following along. Make sure that you are subscribed to the BAM YouTube, the Broke Agent YouTube, to catch all of the Real Word or the Real Word clips. And if you're listening on pods, would love a review from you. Hit the Tomo link below. Nicole, we will see you guys next week.
See you guys.
Keep it real.